Hello everyone, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Which is which? IMF or BRI when it comes to the real debt trap? In this brief analysis, I'm going to provide you with both sides of the argument and let you, of course, reach your own conclusion. Let me start first by highlighting the difference between IMF and BRI. So what is IMF? IMF stands for the International Monetary Fund. It is an international organization that promotes global economic growth and financial stability, encourages also international trade, and reduce poverty. I'll let you be the judge of that, by the way. IMF impact is visible. The IMF has imposed strict economic policies on indebted countries, leading to austerity measures that often exacerbate poverty and economic instability. For example, many African countries struggle to pay off IMF loans, leading to a cycle of debt, dependency, and underdevelopment. On the other hand, what is BRI? The Belt and Road Initiative is an ambitious plan to develop two new trade routes connecting China with the rest of the world. It is an initiative, a Chinese initiative that is. China's BRI is often mischaracterized as a debt trap diplomacy. Chinese loans are typically more flexible and aligned with the development goal of recipient countries. There is a misconception out there. It challenges the narrative that China deliberately pushes countries into unsustainable debt to gain political leverage, emphasizing instead that Chinese loans are a small portion of the total debt burden of many countries. In mid-August of 2022, China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs surprised the world with a series of announcements. Wang Yi, Beijing's most senior diplomats, promised extensive debt relief for some of the world's poorest countries. The announcement was made at the ministerial meeting of the Forum for China's Africa Cooperation. What about IMF tariffs and global interest rates? Recently, IMF's board convened and decided to review its tariff structures as major borrowers have raised concerns about the increasing cost of servicing these debts, exacerbated by the rising global interest rate. Simply said, high tariffs and interest rates have placed additional financial pressures on already struggling economies, prompting calls for reform within the IMF to make borrowing more sustainable. Interestingly, the IMF own report highlights that Chinese loans are not the main debt burden in the sub-Saharan region, pointing out that traditional Western loans, including those from the IMF itself, play a larger role. In contrast, Chinese loans are often directed towards infrastructure and development projects that have long-term economic benefits, contrasting with the short-term high-interest loan from Western institutions. Rethinking global financing. The ongoing debate over global financing, particularly in the context of developing nations, often centers around accusation of debt trap diplomacy, primarily directed at China's Belt and Road Initiative, the BRI. Critics argue that China's lures poor developing countries into unsustainable loans to pursue infrastructure projects, effectively trapping them into a cycle of debt and dependency. However, those critics effectively or frequently overlooked a crucial aspect: the role of the International Monetary Fund itself in perpetuating a more insidious form of that trap that has long plagued many nations, Argentina and Pakistan, are a case in point. Furthermore, an IMF report cited that China's Africa relations, an IMF report reveals that Chinese loans are not the primary source of debt burden in the sub-Saharan region. Instead, it was the traditional loans, including those from the IMF itself, is what constitutes the larger share of the debt load. This finding challenges the dominant narrative and suggests that the real debt trap might be the one set by Western financial institutions rather than China. The need for reform and alternative financing is a must. The criticism of China's BRI must be viewed in the broader context of global financial dynamics. The article, IMF Tariffs and Global Interest Rates, underscores the urgent need for the IMF to review its tariff structures, as major borrowers have now raised serious concerns about the increasing cost of servicing their debt. The rise in global interest rate have exacerbated these financial pressures, making it imperative for the IMF to adopt more sustainable and equitable lending practices. Then comes the alternative financing models, such as those offered by China, present a valuable option for countries seeking to break free from the restrictive and often detrimental conditions imposed by traditional Western financial institutions. These alternatives emphasize long-term development goals and often more manageable repayment terms, allowing nations to invest in their future without sacrificing their present stability. It is my conclusion for you. The narrative of debt trap diplomacy against China's BRI oversimplifies a complex issue and diverts attention from the more pressing problems of IMF-induced debt dependency. While it is essential to critically evaluate all forms of international financing, it is equally important to recognize the broader context in which these loans are provided and their impact on recipient countries. The real challenge lies in finding a balanced approach to global financing that promotes sustainable development, respects national sovereignty, and addresses the root causes of debt dependency. As the IMF faces increasing scrutiny and calls for reform, the emergence of alternative financing models offers a glimmer of hope for countries striving to forge their own economic destinies. If you like this video, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time.